Does anyone remember Danny Pearl? He was a Wall Street Journal reporter. He ended up in the wrong place at the wrong time. In Pakistan in 2002, he was captured by Islamist militants and forced to confess that he was an American and a Jew. And for that confession, a video by his captors was made, and they cut his head off. The story got a lot of play, but it's not unique. It is what Islamists do and will do. Meanwhile, here at home, since September 11, 2001, they have tried again and again to take us down. From Arkansas to North Carolina, to New York, to Detroit, to Texas. Radical jihadists have tried to take us down some 46 times since 9/11. Mostly they have been thwarted, sometimes they have not been. Just under a year ago, one such attack by a man telling us he was a Muslim, a man who handed out cards that read "Soldier of Allah," cards fellow Americans took up. He shut up a medical center in an army fort in the middle of Texas. If you would think there would be a safe place in America, you would think it would be a medical center in an army fort in the middle of Texas. Think again. There are few safe places anymore, and clearly there are no targets that are off limits. That attack took the lives of 14 innocent human beings. It was the second worst terrorist attack in American history. But today, the papers and magazines and television reports say America has become Islamophobic. They tout a poll showing 49% of the American people hold an unfavorable view of Islam. And they report again and again that it's racist to oppose a mosque at Ground Zero. Yes, at Ground Zero, the place where Americans ran past 9 years ago screaming for their lives, precisely the location where the landing gear of one of the planes used in the attack crashed through the roof of what was then the Burlington Coat Factory. We need, as Lincoln would say, a whole new set of definitions and clarity just now. Let's start here with proportion. Has anyone in the media actually checked the actual hate crime statistics in the United States? If they did, they would learn this. There are far more anti-Semitic events in this country than anti-Muslim. 65% of the religious hate crimes in this country were anti-Semitic. 8% were anti-Muslim, according to the government's most recent statistics. There were 8 times as many anti-Jewish incidents in America as anti-Muslim. But if anyone said that this was an anti-Semitic country, they would be laughed off the stage. And no magazine would dare print such a cover, no news organization would promote such a thesis. But Muslims now proclaim themselves the new victims. I'm sorry, they are not. It is not we the people who need to adjust and to change. We are right to have questions, to be worried and concerned. It is Islam that needs to examine itself. It is the religion it needs change and reformation, not our apologies to it. Let's go back to Danny Pearl. His father, Judea, a professor at UCLA, explains far better than anyone else why we have had enough. Here's what he wrote last month, having had enough of being told that Imam Rauf, the guy behind the Ground Zero Mosque, that being told that he was a moderate and that the Ground Zero Mosque was a monument to moderation. The American Muslim leadership, Pearl wrote, has had 9 years to build up trust by taking proactive steps against the spread of anti-American terror-breeding ideologies here and abroad. They have not done this. In public, Muslim spokespersons praise America as the best country for Muslims to live and practice their faith. But in sermons and speeches and rallies and classrooms and conferences and books sold at these conferences, the narrative is often very different. There, Noam Chomsky's conspiracy theory is the dominant paradigm. And America's foreign policy is recited as one long chain of crimes against humanity, especially against Muslims. So now we have hand-wringing over what is called Islamophobia, because one man in a church in Florida who represents 1/1,000,000th of 1% of the American population said he wanted to burn Qurans. All of this because another man, Imam Ralph, who cannot condemn Hamas and who cannot not condemn America, wants to put a mosque at ground zero. And this imam has a lot more followers than Pastor Terry Jones. Well, who created this atmosphere? Has the mainstream media and of so-called moderate Muslim organizations pointed out that Terry Jones represents 1/1,000,000th of 1%, or did they elevate him to the headlines on their own? Has the media investigated Imam Ralph the way they investigate, say, conservative leaders of the Family Research Council, or candidates on the conservative side for Senate of the United States? They have not. William Butler Yeats reminds us, there are times when the worst are full of passionate intensity and the best lack all conviction. So let us stand right now and say this loudly and clearly. We are not Islamophobes. We do not fear Islam, but we are angry at Islam, and we have questions of Islam. Anger is a completely rational and Aristotelian mean, expressive of what we mean to say. We are angry at what this religion has done to itself and to us. This is a righteous anger. We are angry at what leaders of this religion fail to say. In Islam's name, people strap bombs to children. They shoot nuns and burn churches in Africa. They blow up subways in Great Britain, bomb trains in Spain, kill documentarians in Amsterdam, put a price on the head of a cartoonist in Denmark, and then go on hotel and synagogue shooting rampages in India. Engage in and justify honor killings from Amman, Jordan to Irving, Texas. In the name of Islam, institutes and universities teach that Jews are pigs and monkeys, that women and men must be stoned to death for adultery, and that Muslims must fight and kill in the world to spread their religion. All of this is done in Islam's name. Who repudiates it? If this were done, any of this were done in my religion's name, I would organize a mass march in Washington or New York to denounce it categorically. For 9 years, we have waited for such a march. Where is that moderate Muslim march? Meanwhile, we are told that we are the racists. No, we are not. We're Americans. We're Americans who will stand up and fight back. We're Americans who have liberated Muslims. We will not be cowered by the enemy or by the media, because if we do not stand up, as Lincoln would say, all the moral lights around us will be blown out. As long back ago as before the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln worried about this too. He worried about our moral lights being blown out. You know, I've written history books, which I hope to get into the schools of America. Lincoln, writing of history, said, I never saw this quote till before this year. I don't know if you've seen it. It's one of the most beautiful quotes I've ever read of Lincoln or anyone. He said of our knowledge of history that it was, quote, once a forest of giant oaks, but the all-resistless hurricane has swept over them and left only here and there a lonely trunk, despoiled of its verdure, shorn of its foliage, unshading and unshaded, to murmur in a few gentle breezes and to combat with its mutilated limbs a few more ruder storms than to sink and be no more. Young Lincoln then, as ever, had a solution, and it's a solution we can take to heart right now. He said this: let those materials be molded into general intelligence, sound morality, and in particular, a reverence for the Constitution and the laws, so that we, improved to the last, we can say that we remained free to the last, that we revered George Washington's name to the last, that during his long sleep, we permitted no hostile foot to pass over or desecrate his resting place, close quote. And he closed by saying this: upon these let the proud fabric of freedom rest, as the rock of its basis, and as truly as has been said of the only greater institution, the gates of hell shall not prevail against it, close quote. Do not be coward, do not be fooled, and do not let the gates of hell prevail. Our war is that important, our task is that difficult. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Morning in America, across the fruited plains. Morning in America, Bill Bennett and the gang. There's entertainment, education, stimulating conversation. Mornings in America won't ever.
Each and every time as I come to the podium to your standing ovations, I want you to know how much I appreciate it. Thank you. Truly, I'm humbled.